what's up, everybody? Ryan here, and welcome to the Growth Minded Contractor Show. I have been for a long time, just been as a sales trainer. I hear a lot of people talk about marketing. I've had a lot of marketing agency friends who are CEOs of marketing agencies, and marketing's changing, especially changes in insurance laws, changes in AI, private equity. The world is shifting pretty fast, and I do believe. And I was actually on a coaching call, and a home service guy, more of an HVAC guy, was on my call, and he was just like, I truly believe that if you don't know how to market and you don't know how to have a company that can market itself, you're going to be obsolete. And I feel like there's a lot of truth to that. I think we should always be marketing and sales people and operations people first. And you happen to have a roofing company or happen to have a contracting business. And that's just good, good old fashioned entrepreneurship and being good at what you do. But it's pretty cool to be able to dig in today on the focus on marketing, because if you're trying to market your business, you definitely want to hear today's episode. I have Matt Tyner here, the Chief Marketing Officer, which how many Chief Marketing Officers are there in a roofing industry, for Bone Dry Roofing, who is a major player and based out of Indianapolis. I think they are the largest in that market, and then they're beyond. So they're a big group, regional, privately owned group, and I believe privately owned. Correct me, I'm sorry, Matt, but and yeah, I think that for you guys wanting to learn about marketing, we're at a point where this is a big enough business where they have a full-time CMO and this person's in-house. So definitely excited for you guys to listen today. Matt, welcome to my show, and I appreciate your time today.
Ryan, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. So get everybody a quick background of you. Like, hey, I want to hire a chief marketing officer one day. That sounds awesome. Like, what would that kind of person's background be like? Why don't you give everybody the kind of the accelerator resume and kind of what brought you to Bone Dry?
Yeah, absolutely. So my senior year of college, I interned at Delta Faucet Company and in their retail marketing team, and that was my start into the trades. They were in a hiring freeze because of everything that happened in '08. But they actually introduced me to an HVAC distributor where I went to work. I was lucky enough to join their team there, eventually be a territory manager. So I got some of the sales experience, but my background through school and beyond has been marketing. I transitioned then from there to work for an e-commerce based company. It's now Contractor Commerce. Before it was Contractor Commerce, we were selling parts and pieces, filters and humidifiers online. I had a ton of fun with Will building that business up. And then I decided to move on, wanted some experience on the contracting side within home services. So went to work for a smaller contractor that was in the Lexington, Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio market, helping them build out their sales and marketing team. From there, ended up at an agency, Valve and Meter, as their vice president of marketing, helping them really jumpstart the agency into the home services space. Did that for a couple of years before moving on to Max Service Group, who was purchased by Wrench Group in 2021. We were one of the companies acquired during COVID and all of that. That extravaganza that happened, but gained a ton of experience there. We grew from 56 to 112 million. That was just a ton of fun, high growth, but really exciting high growth time period. And so that was a ton of fun. And then I just wanted to get back on the family owned side. So ended up having a conversation with Gene Judd here. Yes, still family owned, probably one of the larger family owned residential contractors across the US remaining. And so the company here is about $200 million in total revenue and growing. And we're just excited to be able to take a little bit of a different approach to things, but even, ultimately have control of our destiny. Right. And that's the fun part. And so not many marketers that have been their entire career. I've had several friends have been like, why have you stayed in home services this entire time? I love the people. And you cannot work with better people. You're the salt of the earth. Everyone would do anything for anyone. And I just love that because that gives you a lot of motivation as a marketer because you're impacting them and their families. And you get to see it every day through your conversations with them. So that's the abbreviated resume, but it's been home services.
Super fun. And before I lose track of this, is that a miniature billboard behind you that
that is a tiny billboard. So we had a campaign this year launched that was Your Roof, Our Reputation. We started that at the last half of last year, and it ran into this year. We've got a new one, more to come.
That is so fun. 'cause
Yeah.
it looks like it's a real bill I mean, it is a real
Yeah.
billboard, but it's small, but it looks really cool in this video. I love that.
I wish I
Super
would have
creative.
done that, but I didn't.
Sweet, Matt. Well, I love the people too in this industry. It's a beautiful place to work, and people are grateful for the hard work and doing things right and communicating well and having integrity. And man, it really is it's a great place to be. So I love that. I share that with you. Tell me, Matt, like, so when you're thinking about a $200 million business, what's like, where do you start? Like, where did you start when you came in, and what is it that you do that you would say you needed to change that really made a huge impact on
Yeah.
bone dry? I mean, the fact that you're still there is a means that they value you,
Right.
and that you're doing something right. Where do you start when you come into a big brand like that to take it to the next level? And what's kind of some of the best practices you've implemented?
Yeah, so I would say first, that first 90 days was really just trying to understand the business, right? Where
Mhm.
were they at? What is the story? Right? I think a lot of marketers they miss out on that. They try to come in and they try to put their stamp on the business immediately. And in doing that, they're doing it with great intentions, but they're not taking time to really understand the story that needs to be told. Right, because everything we do as marketing should be intentional. It's not just lead gen, right? Even through our lead gen messaging, we have a whole team dedicated towards leading, taking customers through the journey and successfully taking them from a website form to a as ultimately a customer of ours.
Mhm.
And even through that, while people view that traditionally as customer acquisition, you got to tell your story. You got to create the value proposition. We're not the cheapest in the market. We never will be. We have to explain why we're different and what we do to be able to have that value proposition within the markets that we serve. First, I always encourage everyone just to listen, ask questions, sit in meetings. Don't try to be the rock star right out of the gate in meetings. Just observe. And oftentimes, I find the company tells you what it needs, but you just got to listen intentionally and be able to cut through the BS of
Yeah.
maybe agenda based stuff, right? And just get to the okay. Here's really what it means. But from there, I like to think we overcomplicate marketing most times. We
Yeah.
really try to make it seem more than it is, but at the end of the day, we're like I said, we're just telling that story. And once you understand that, and one thing that was very that billboard campaign, the Your Roof, Our Reputation, that came out of me sitting in a meeting and hearing Gene say, and when we're out on jobs, that's more than our roof up there. That's our reputation. Right. And he was just driving home the fact that to follow the bone dry way, the documented process and procedure of how to install a roof, how to do the small things well so that the customer doesn't have a leak in the future. And so that we can confidently walk away there and know that hey, that customer is going to ultimately refer us to
Mhm.
the friends and family. So yeah, listening I think is the biggest thing. And then once you dig into the numbers, data's great because it tells you part of that story as well. So one
Mhm.
of the immediate things that we did, we hired for call center. We understood that we have a sizable business already, but a pretty marginal answer rate in terms
Mhm.
of answering the phone calls when they come in within first 14 to 60 seconds.
Mm.
So the big agenda, let's get that to 95%.
Mm.
Now we're averaging 97% across the
What
company.
was it before, the answer rate?
It was high 70s, which now I don't do the whole thing of like, hey, let's qualify the leads in the system of this is a lead, this is not, because typically what ends up happening is gamification, right? People end up, oh no, this really wasn't a lead opportunity. Let's not qualify it as that. I love working off of raw numbers because proportionally across all your locations, you probably have the same percent or within 5 points, probably the same percent of junk calls in all locations. So let's just call it what it is and let's just dig into the numbers that we can't have any gamification of. So we did that, and that's been a big lift to the company. Next was really understanding that journey on a data transacted lead, thinking things like Angie's Lists, Thumbtack, Yelp, website leads, anything that isn't an inbound phone call, that journey is different. And really understanding what that needs to be. So we developed out a team. We have 4 people on the team right now, 7 days a week. They are taking those leads from 7 to 7. They're taking those leads from the beginning to the point of booking the appointment, and really just kind of building those relationships, building that value, and constantly staying on top of those leads because they're people that are texting you, emailing you throughout life. So things fall through the cracks. So we just need to give them a gentle reminder, right? And that's increased our booking rate on data transacted leads from 27% into the high 60s.
Wow.
So we've been able to do things like that. Just find the areas that you can plug in that you're not making huge changes, right? But you're finding how to let's maximize the current leads that we have before we start throwing on new lead opportunities or lead sources that we're going to have to train the sales team on, right? They may be colder leads, so they're going to be a little bit tougher of a conversation and sell. So let's try to really own that customer journey and experience with the leads we already have and that we're already getting. And then once you get that optimized, now we can then go looking at adding additional lead channels. And it really took us about a year before we got to the point where it was like, okay, let's turn on this, let's turn on this,
Mhm.
let's turn on this, because it does take a lot of internal conversations and refining in order to make those things work. Because ultimately, if you don't call a lead within 5 minutes, toss it out the door, throw it away, take that money and rip it up, throw it in your trash can, because there are companies that are responding, and our goal is ultimately to be sub 2 minutes.
Wow. So, you came in, you observed, you took in the story, you
Yeah.
didn't, you learned that story and that story. Did you make any changes in that story being told on the website or none of that? You just understood it at this point?
So we went through a process of website redesign, and I would say it was more of a technical SEO fix. We really had a lot of things behind the scenes that needed fixed on the website. That's really my background is SEO. So there were just things that our prior agency was not doing that needed to be done. So we worked with our current agency to get that rebuilt and to be able to get that to a point where we were confident of hey, technically in the eyes of Google, this is going to be seen as an enhanced and well optimized website. I'm a big believer in making sure you're doing the simple things really really well before we start making things more complicated. So that was one of it, and then also then refining in some of the messaging and talking about the community and bringing those in. But that's really been over time that we've refined some of those messages, brought it in. When you look at the billboard campaign, the TV commercials that we've done, things like that, which the company really hadn't done before, those were really around trust building. You're not going to see out of our brand a ton of mega offers. We're not going to increase the price 20% just to put a
Mhm.
20% discount on the website. Sorry, sales team, but it's just part of our DNA is just not to do that. And so I have to understand and recognize that as a marketer. And I come from a company that we did have aggressive offer bases. So now coming into this, but I'm okay with it because I understand the company. I understand Gene's vision. I understand what's made him successful over the 36 years of building this company from scratch, of starting it in a garage to where it is today. You've got to embrace that story, because if I try to come in as a CMO and start changing things and doing massive offers and it's against the DNA of the company and what their customers expect, I've
Mhm.
failed. I haven't done my job because I didn't listen to the business.
Wow, I love that. So the pickup rate, the answer rate, the booking rate, all of those at the scale that you guys are at, those are some massive movers of the needle. That's amazing. So then what were some of those channels that were already in place that you were like, "Hey, let's not add any until we dial this in." What were the core basic
Yeah.
channels that you had? And then when you started to get it working, what did you add?
I would say a lot of the basics that a lot of people listening to this message had, right? We were doing from a paid perspective, pay-per-click marketing, right? Everyone does it. LSAs. We had the website obviously optimized for organic. We did a big push because of our 20 some locations across the United States, 9 states. We had to really build out that hyper local profile of our websites. So there were a lot of things that we had to do from that perspective to make sure that we were really pushing the organic based leads so we could spend more in some of our paid channels. But we were doing really the basics and building up our social media campaigns, our social media profiles, making sure that we're doing a ton of boosted content. You don't see a lot of roofing content on our website or on our social media pages because their intent is to engage with the customer, right? No one really wants to talk about roofing, but they do want to laugh. And what I want as a marketer, I want them to have that positive sentiment and experience in their head for when they do need a roofing company, they think of our brand because we made them laugh, right? We did something that was more than what a roofing contractor does. Really digging into that. And yes, then we layered on our top of mind awareness of billboards and TV in 5 of our markets. But now, because we got a lot of those things optimized and we got our systems and processes internally really driving in the right direction, now we're looking at more of your lead aggregator partners, right? How do you work with Thumbtack? How do you work with Angie Leads? How do you work with these different sources to be able to bring them in and make them a profitable and financially wise decision within your business? I've worked with them for years. It can be done. But if you just take an email from them and you call them back eventually, yeah, it's not going to work because your business doesn't work.
Hmm.
But those are just things that we as business owners, entrepreneurs, people within business have to understand is, and we've got to be convenient to the customer. We're lucky to have them. They're not lucky to have us.
It's good. The hyper local like with multi-location, how does one go about that? Hey, I was talking to a company that does really well in Tampa and they were expanding to Orlando, and maybe they went backwards. They went like pay per click first into Orlando, but they didn't really have all of the organic stuff dialed so that it was super pricey. They were like, it's just better to say, just do more in Tampa because we're doing, we're already like spend more here. It's more profitable. What are your thoughts on how to how do you do that on a per location? How do you set up the CO and the website to have one website with multiple locations optimized for those locations for organic demand?
Yeah, so let's break it down to its most simple ways of thinking of the website and how Google looks at it, right? We have sitemaps. And essentially, that is how we're telling Google and the various search engines, when you come to our website, here's how you need to crawl it. Right. And a lot of people are like, oh, just create all this content and interlink with junk links back and forth from pages, which is needed. But you have to think about it. It's got to be strategic in the way in which Google will crawl it, in which you're telling it to crawl it. Right. So you have, in our case, we have the bone dry site. But then from the bone dry site, we have all the different markets that we serve in a drop down, and we think URL structure bonedry.com/Indianapolis slash Sarasota slash wherever, and then building that out and then making sure that you're positioning your hyper local pages underneath those sub pages to be able to support them. So you've got to be able to send the message to Google in the right way. I'm a big fan. If you're going to go organically into a new market, launch SEO ahead of time. Right. And if it's a case of being in Tampa and going to Orlando, let's send a few guys over to Orlando with any leads we do get. But let's launch that 90 days prior to the official launch into the market. Let the SEO start building up. As long as you're doing it right, within 90 days, you should start seeing some really good progress within the market. Build
Hmm.
that up and have a team. Have a team from Tampa just go over to Orlando and serve that in this model, right? Because otherwise, it's going to be ridiculously expensive to be able to go into a market, right? That's why most PEs, when they greenfield into a market, they're going to be spending for that first year 20 to 30% of their total revenue on marketing when they go into a new market organically or greenfield into a market. So you have, because you have no brand, you don't have existing customers to go after. So all of these things that you've built your existing business around, you don't have that here. You haven't earned it here. So you've got to make sure to be strategic of giving SEO the best path forward, making sure you're setting your GBPs up well, making sure you're starting with LSA, going into a market. And then I believe when you go into a new market, you should really be looking at doing some top of mind awareness. Orlando's tough because it's big, but I would say for most markets, try to get some top of mind awareness because that's going to only increase the results of your paid channels over time.
Hmm. Love that. So talk about social media humor
Yeah.
and like that brand affinity. What are some memorable like examples of posts and content that you put out there that's funny? Like what are some of how do you go about creating that?
Yeah. So I think it's always right. What makes us laugh, right? We've got a great social media manager and social media coordinator here on the team. Both of them are really witty individuals, and I think that helps.
Yeah.
One of the posts that did just absolutely crushed it for us. It was on the day of the Indy 500. We posted a picture, and it was, I don't know if the state of Indiana really appreciated it, but in our Indiana markets, we posted it's the longest stretch in Indiana without a pothole, and it went. I think it had 13,000 likes. It went pretty viral for a local post.
Yeah.
It did very limited boosting to it, but it's just finding things that are relevant, right? You've got to tippy toe on the line a little bit, right? We down in our Florida markets, maybe we don't talk about T Swift and do things that are more trendy, right? Because you have a significantly older clientele there, right? The data says it. I didn't. Data says it. But then here you have a little bit of a younger market. So you can get away with some of that. I'm sure it drives some of our team members crazy when they see it and they're like, why aren't you talking about roofing stuff? Because no one wants to talk about roofing stuff. No one cares who
Yeah.
won shingle color of the year. And I think that's just one thing we have to recognize it as an industry. We've got to make this more about roofing because we want to be more than just a roofing company, right? We want to be that company that people trust, and that's why our messaging has to be focused around trust. We have to make people laugh. We have to make it more about this trade because there are so many companies in every market that can put on a roof, and there are a lot of companies that put on really good roofs.
Yeah.
So we've got to be able to focus on creating that experience and that brand that people want to do business with.
That's good. Talk about 7 to 7. What happens before 7 or after 7? What happens? And what are your thoughts on AI, agents, speed to lead, all the I mean, I'm hopeful that you've at least investigated because it's pretty compelling with the speed of AI, how quickly and how well trained these AI tools can be. And like, those are some things I'm curious about. So what happens before in between
Yeah.
the other 7 to 7 outside of those hours? And what are your thoughts on AI agents?
Yeah, totally. So right now, I would say current day, it still goes to an after hour agency that we've used for quite a while that really knows our business. Here's also the thing: is let's not try to make our current business hour experience the exact same for after hours, right? Let's truncate after hours. Let's get the important information and then get it to a team member that can call them or be able to get warm transferred to them or start a text conversation with them, an actual team member, a skilled tradesman, right? That can reach out to them and be able to either dispatch themselves to the house, dispatch a team member to the house, or be able to say, hey, this is something you're good. We'll be there first thing in the morning. Right. So we do have team members within our trades teams that are on call. Now, that call center portion of it, because you're able to truncate it down and really get the important information to pass it along, that's where AI is coming into play, right? We've investigated several. I can tell you we're in the middle of launching it in a couple of markets.
Mm.
Here's the thing with AI, and I think it is an incredibly useful tool. I use it a ton personally. I think we need to make sure that we're doing a good job documenting systems and processes and what we do as a business, because in order to be successful, really successful with AI and make it a really well-trained agent, you have to be able to feed that information to it in a quick manner, right? So you got to have these things documented so you can feed it so it can be learning, right? Because
Mhm.
AI is only going to be as good as the information it's given. So I think trades in general, I've worked in HVAC, plumbing, roofing. Trades in general is I say really good or terrible at they work off tribal knowledge, right? She's so and so's been here forever. She runs the office. She knows everything. She'll take care of it, right? That's great until she's not here to do that, right? Life happens, whatever. Let's make sure that we're documenting things because that does then enable you to utilize AI in more facets of your business, like an after hours answering service, because I am a fan of it being utilized in that and storm environments where you can train the AI agent to actually let people know, yes, we are in a storm environment. We're trying to help as many people as possible. Let us get down your basic contact information and a team member will reach out to you as soon as possible, right? Let them know they're heard, get that information documented so that then you can act on it, because you don't want necessarily an AI agent just booking all of the calls, right? In a storm environment, you want to be able to understand what calls really need serviced first, right? Prioritization is key in those situations. So that's my view. I think within your company, I think AI is a hell of a tool. And if you're not looking at it, what it's going to do is it's going to cut into your profitability. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to recognize as business leaders, as it's going to allow you to be more profitable, not from necessarily headcount elimination, but headcount optimization.
Totally. Yeah. So you guys are checking, going to try them out in a couple markets, a couple locations.
Yes,
Is it
I'm
one of those that are dedicated companies that are dedicated to this industry, or is it like another brand, like another
yeah,
service? Which one are
yeah.
you guys looking at?
So we currently use for our e-leads team, they're all managed out of Hatch. So we're going to start with Hatch's AI tool. I've got a great relationship with the team over there with Chris,
Yeah.
his team. It's a good company that also understands some of the dynamics and legalities also of
Yeah.
outreach. I think that's something that as an industry, we need to do a better job of. I doubt people understand the legalities of text messages and emails to the depth they should,
Yeah.
because those are some gnarly calls with an attorney general if someone complains, because you don't get a violation for that one person that complained. You get a fine for every single one that you sent.
That's gnarly. Yeah, I'm glad that Hatch has got, an idea of what they're doing, and you gotta know because, like, I think, what was it, Texas recently had announced something, about that. Um, they have had to have opted in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super interesting with AI, what's going on. Are you guys using AI in your marketing department, outside of anywhere else? What are you guys doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you think of content creation, it's absolutely key on that. We know our graphic design team has tested with it on some occasions. I still think it has a little bit of a ways to go in some of the graphic design work. It's still almost faster. It's still faster to design something than keep editing a prompt to get it to where you need it to be. I think
Okay.
for like a if you needed a picture of a roofer putting on a shingle or something like that, it could get fairly realistic. But if you're talking about promotional pieces, things of that nature, there's still a little bit of dialing in that needs to be done, in my opinion. But when you think of content creation, being able to make sure that your brand messaging is key. I run every single one of my all company emails through it to ensure that I'm hitting on the brand messaging that I've promised to deliver. Right.
Do you
Um,
send out email drip to your database, bone dry emails? Is that what yeah.
Absolutely.
How often do you guys send those out?
Monthly. A
Yeah.
monthly email cadence, and then when we have special things come up, we'll do it. But again, it's not about sales. We don't put offers in there.
Brand, right? It's like
It's
it's,
all about
community involvement or things like
yes.
that. That what you guys talking about?
Yes, it's all about the community involvement. Sometimes we'll put a recipe in there if it's around a holiday. We'll talk about, a different event. Say we did a dog adoption event. We're really close with the different humane societies. So,
Oh, that's
like
cool.
an Indy, for example,
That's on brand. That's on brand with a
for
dog.
sure, right? We've got Otis the dog here. We've got when we talk about the Humane Society, we host adoption events on the weekends that people can drive through our
Cool.
warehouse and come pet dogs. Same with vaccine clinics and microchipping clinics. It's literally drive in one door, exit the other door of the warehouse, and they've got various vet and vet techs along the way that'll microchip, document, or get the vaccines to your pets. There are just a lot of things that you can do with your existing facility
Yeah.
without having to spend a ton of money. But a facility that an organization may need, like the Humane Society. We're just set up really well for that. So utilize it. Let's be able to
Yeah.
create. And those are some of our best engaging pieces. We can if we do a microchipping event, they'll give us 400 spaces, and within a day and a half, we will have them all booked by one boosted Facebook post.
Dang. And you think about that's 400 potential customers.
Driving through
400.
our warehouse, seeing what we're about, seeing our
Yeah.
training area, the Bone Dry University, seeing all these different things. And not only that,
Mhm.
but engaging with our team members that happen to be super friendly.
Yeah, that's great. Do you guys are you in charge of this for like marketing to your internal marketing? So like, awards or recognition for your employees or promotions, like that's separate? Does somebody else own that? Do you own that?
So I would say we're involved for sure, but Connie here on the team here, she really takes a lot of the communications internally to the company and all of that. So I would say that's housed really there, but we help out most definitely. And when we're talking about promotions, all of that, we were just in a meeting about winter promotions, really just figuring out what can we do on a buy down rates, what can we do this or that. It's not a huge product promotion. It's more, again, helping because we're trying to find a better financing rate for customers as they get closer to the holidays so they don't have to pay as much out of pocket because they've got to pay for their kids' Christmas gifts and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
how do we really make sure that we're customer centric even in the quote unquote promotions that we offer?
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys are dialing on the fundamentals. You're looking at data. What are some of the data platforms that enables you to see your marketing reports and the insights that you draw from the data? to make decisions. What do you guys? What are some of those tools that you guys use?
Yeah, a few of them that I'm a fan of from a marketing perspective. Agency analytics is one that you can plug into a lot of your platforms and bring that data into one place to be able to just kind of give a high level view. That's a really good. You jump in on a Monday morning and check the results and see where things are going. You know, Also we do utilize Tableau, but I'm not going to expect a lot of companies to be using Tableau for presenting data. But when you're talking about a marketing perspective, I mean, looking at Ahrefs, Bright Local, SEMrush, all of these different tools that are out there, they're all valuable. You just need to find one that works for you, but then also
Hmm.
provides reliable data. That's why I'm a big fan of Ahrefs. It's always been one that I've relied on, and I understand it. I can jump in and be able to make decisions out of it quickly. But then you get into the operations side of it. I think marketing and sales and marketing and operations oftentimes are disconnected in a lot of companies, right? Because you may have an agency, which is completely fine. But not everyone should have a marketing leader. They're not to the point where they need a marketing leader. But in that case, you rely heavily on agencies, and agencies just based on how the model is created, they're not in your business. And that's why I am a fan of building out your teams internally and
Hmm.
being able to have people that work on your business 100% of the time, and their success dictates the company's success. And
Hmm.
that's exciting because there's just a level of ownership that brings to the table that an agency model just doesn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would agree. Some of the best companies are the biggest ones that I think that do the best with brand and the revenue and the reputation often have an in-house marketing leader. But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, this has been really great. How's and do you guys do commercial as well?
Yeah, we do a decent amount of commercial, but still 75% of our business is residential. But I
Yeah.
would say about 25% is commercial. But that's a whole bone dry commercial team. It's a different team. They've got business development resources. Really, from the marketing side, that's relationships, right? There is some.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your involvement with
Mhm.
influencing commercial business on marketing, and
Yeah,
yeah, I was just curious if you had
I,
any.
I'm a big believer that commercial needs driven through relationships.
Hmm.
Marketing's role there is really collateral based more than anything, and then the relationships, maybe trying to do some targeted approaches when you think of some of the tools that are out there like Apollo
Hmm.
AI, all these different contact acquisition essentially groups that you can get the contact information, do drip campaigns, things like that. But I'm a big believer still, it's just the old fashioned build the
Yeah.
relationships in that space.
It's funny, I was talking to a large Midwest far from you guys,
Yeah, you
residential first, then commercial contractor, and they say they get a lot of their commercial leads on Google, and I was like, "Interesting," and they're like, "Yeah, we just go out there and repair it, and then they'll sell it, and, you know, they'll do the replacement," and I love that model, but I've not heard of a company growing a lot just from their Google
right,
efforts commercial, and I was like,
right,
"That was pretty fascinating," and usually it's outside business development, networking, relationship generating resources that
yep,
have and I was like I was kinda challenging them. I was like, "Well, if you guys are getting a portion of those online buyers and you don't have really attributed resources, there's probably gonna be a sizable number of commercial building owners and managers who don't buy off Google that you need to market to." So it's like I've just look at it. It's like you have two different commercial customers. You have people who will never buy from Google, only in person, and only people who don't care to learn. They don't have a network or care to build it. They just will look at Google and trust Google. And I was like, I just never heard of as a commercial sales trainer. First, residential we added. Second, I just haven't heard any companies that would be able to say we've grown so much from Google on commercial. That was pretty cool. So I was just curious being one
I
from you
would
guys.
be interested to understand how much of theirs is light commercial versus heavy commercial, right? How much of them is
Yeah.
shopping center, like individual units, right? I can see that being definitely more similar to a retail type trans and residential type transaction.
Yeah.
When you talk about facility operators, facility directors, people that have big manufacturing facilities, large roofs, typically you see a lot of that come from the business development side of
Yeah.
things. Listen, if you can get anything through Google, try to get as much of it. Now, you still optimize for it, right? Still have the basics up there, but man, it's important to be building those long lasting relationships that you have those customers for
Yeah,
a long, long time
it's
and
good.
wherever they go, right? Because they always move.
Right. So true. Do you guys find yourself talking about your shingle manufacturer and like, because I see a lot of roofers who are marketers. Some of them are like, "Do we never even talk about what we use? GAF, Certainty, Owens Corning, don't even no one cares. They don't really care. The customers don't care. They trust us." Or some people really lean into the fact that they're an OC Platinum or GAF Master Elite or Owens Corning Masters, credentialed shingler. Curious what your position on that from a regional powerhouse like you guys. Do you talk a lot about who you guys install and why, or is that like an afterthought if they
I
ask?
mean, I think from a consumer perspective, right? You're always going to say we're a platinum contractor. We do this or this. But I mean, ultimately, I do think people are correct in saying that people buy from the contractor, right?
Mhm.
However, that relationship between the manufacturer and contractor, absolutely critical. We have a fantastic relationship with OC, an absolutely great relationship with OC. And, that relationship does matter because at the end of the day, we want to be putting on a really really good roof, right? And so we
Are
want to make
Is
sure
it
that we're
consumer care or is it
no,
like more like you
I don't.
guys?
The consumer cares, but what they do care about is us as a contractor, and they're
Right.
entrusting us to decide what is the best brand for their roof.
Right.
And
But you
that
have to have a good relationship with them in order to
absolutely.
feel good about it, and then obviously the rebates and all the things that you guys deal with, that's some pretty important relationship, very important relationship. Yeah, I was just curious just how you guys marketed their products versus marketed Bone
Yeah,
Dry, and then, down in the sales presentation is
right.
when the first time they actually are like, "Oh, that's okay. I mean, I don't really care. I just trust
Yeah,
you guys." Right?
they're going to learn about us first. Absolutely.
Right.
But we'll talk about different certifications or whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's important. People need to understand the power of brand, and
Yeah.
you can tell your own story. Like, who are you? What's the founding story? What do you care about? And I think it's more than just the quality and the look of your logo, which I do think is important. But, I think it's cool when a sales rep is able to like speak to the power of the story of the brand that they're when you have a sales rep who's a human being aligning with the brand to the customer, it's very powerful versus like a sales rep talking about themselves or they don't have a connection with the brand. So I think that the work you guys have done, it sounds like it's started with Gene, it's worked its way out through the culture. There's like a bone dry way, and that like starts to seep into all the way out to the customer, which I've heard this before, and I like to say it. It's like people will call you because of what you do. They may choose to work with you because of how you do it, but they will spend more to work with you and choose you and refer
Yep.
you because of why you do it. So it's like they
Yep.
expect you to be good at roofing. They expect you to do it
Absolutely.
well. Like, well, what's going to make you different? Well, it's like it's your story, it's your brand, it's all the DNA of the company has to be defined and it has to be real and tangible. People have to notice it,
Yep.
or else then like you're just like everybody else. And like because we are in roofing, right? This is a shingle product. Like there's a lot of those.
And I think that's where I think Gene has done just a phenomenal job, and that is connecting with his team. Right? He knows, I would say, dang near every one of our 500-600 employees by name. Right? In our a sales text thread for each one of our markets, where our sales team is on it, and our entire executive leadership team, we're on each one of those text threads talking, celebrating the wins with GM text, just things like that they hear from Gene literally every day, whether it's
That's
him liking, giving him a fist bump emoji on a customer that they were just able to serve, sharing reviews across the teams, things like that. It really does matter. And then we've instituted an intranet here internally, and I know that sounds really old to say intranet, but we have this product. It's called the Boneyard, and that's where we talk about everything company. Right, it's where the culture lives. It's where we send out updates of, hey, here's different things we're doing from a marketing perspective. Here's culturally, here's some events. Here's a community involvement opportunity, this or that. Right, it's taking all these different components that we've had in place and making sure everyone knows about it.
yeah,
Right, and I
maybe.
would say that's where marketing has been really involved, is helping build that out and the communication of it, just so everyone knows, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going. but it really does help when you have a CEO that genuinely cares about all of his team members and is actively involved in sending everyone text messages on a Saturday morning because he decided to go to some jobs, and he's up on the roof saying, "Hey, you guys missed this chimney. You could have talked to them about the chimney cap or whatever." And like, still trying to wake up, and he's out and he's just
Wow.
meeting with customers, and it means something, and the customer and our team is just incredibly loyal to that, and that
Man,
just
what a
again
leader.
it becomes part of your story.
Have not had the privilege of meeting Gene, I don't think,
Oh,
so
one of the nicest humans on the face of the earth.
that's great. Love that. Man, Matt, this has been really great, super insightful. I hope those who, have a chance to listen to this, can, appreciate it and share with their friends. Yeah, man, you and I connected on LinkedIn, and, maybe that's where you can drive people if they wanna touch base with you.
Absolutely. They can just look me up. It's Matthew Tyner on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect, send me a message. I'll respond as soon as I can. But we're, just like the company, we're pretty transparent. I'll answer questions that people have. And luckily, I've been able to work in businesses of varying sizes. So I know typically I have a pretty good feeling of what works with the different revenue sizes and can help give some guidance. And hopefully, everyone doesn't have to recreate the mistakes I've made throughout the years.
Yeah, man, super great to have you. You're a pro. So I appreciate your time, Matt, and, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.